Thanks for listening to this Word in Your Ear podcast. If you'd like to get early access to all our productions ad-free, priority booking for our live events, and to take part in our weekly quiz, go to patreon.com/wordinyourear for more details.
Word down your way. Those who are about to tour salute you.
Right, welcome to another Word Down Your Way, where those who are about to go on tour salute you. And our special guest, I can't help thinking about, there's a character in The Simpsons called Troy McClure. It was an actor who often says, "You probably know me from films such as," and I feel that the dilemma of Troy McClure might just ring a bell with Paul Carrack, who you certainly know from such tunes as Tempted by Squeeze and for his Mike and the Mechanic stuff, and also stuff in his own right. And also, I just found this.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first Ace album, which came out, let's just celebrate his birthday, 50 years ago, pretty much now, didn't it? Which obviously featured How Long? And so, welcome, Paul Carrack. Very nice to have you with us.
Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to be here eventually. Now we got the old updates and everything out of the way.
We did.
Technical stuff.
Absolutely.
Troy McClure, yeah, I'll have to remember that. That sounds like an album title almost.
Yes.
You might know me from.
You might know me from.
Yeah. You put out an album once called I Know That Name, didn't you, I think, as a reference.
Yeah, I know that name.
For many people, you were under the radar.
Yeah, that was Dave Robinson's idea. Because he was fed up with going around saying, "Oh yeah, I'm working with Paul Carrack," and people go, "Yeah, I know that name." But how long? That's Paul Carrack. Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Well, look, what we normally do with these chats is start off talking about your kind of live performance history. Can you remember the first person you went to see, first show you went to see as a kid, or anything like that?
Not 100% sure of the chronology, but the thing is, I grew up in Sheffield.
Yes.
And Sheffield City Hall was a fantastic venue, still is, where all the package tours would come through. So I saw a couple of those tours featuring the Beatles.
Oh, really?
Once before they just broken, and the second time I think it was full on Beatlemania. But
so we're talking about what, 63, 64?
It's about 63, yeah, I think 63, 64.
What was the ratio of boys to girls in the audience?
I think there was probably mixed, but there was definitely a lot more screaming coming from the girls. It was like that. You couldn't.
Can you remember anything about it? Any detail?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean. Excuse me. I can definitely remember being up in the circle and looking down at them. They were so great with the audience. I can remember I was on the side that Lennon was on, and I just remember him. He was beaming up at the circle, and but I think they only would play about 4 songs.
Well, they would.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was going to say. Is that the tour that started with Helen Shapiro was the top of the bill, and then they switched it halfway through the tour?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the. But I was thinking of the Roy Orbison one.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That is the tour I think where they switched.
Oh, I see.
I think Roy was top of the bill, and then they switched it to the Beatles. So that was great. I mean, I saw the Stones there, also the Shadows. I was a big Shadows fan.
Right.
Not so much Cliff, all due respect, but...
the Shadows were a boys' thing, weren't they, really?
Yeah, definitely.
Cliff was a girls' thing. Shadows were a boys' thing.
Definitely.
Every group that you imagined you might be in. How many boys sat there trying to work out the dance movements and played imaginary guitars?
Well, not just imaginary guitars, but the amount of kids back then who tried to make guitars.
Yes.
I mean, I remember my brother trying to make a Strat, and he had this big chunk of wood and, drew it around. And a lot of kids had a go at that. And I remember one kid around our way who made this great-looking guitar, but he didn't realise that you needed a truss rod, which is the thing with the neck.
It's the neck.
It's got a metal thing fixing it onto, and as soon as he put the strings on it, sort of.
It folded up like a deck chair.
But I mean, going back to Sheffield City Hall, I mean, I saw Chuck Berry.
Oh, right. Okay.
And on those tours, as you said, they would only play 2, 3, 4 numbers, and there'd be a band backing everyone up. On one occasion, it was Sounds Incorporated.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember Sounds Incorporated.
Yes, I do. Plangatini and all that. Yeah.
That's right. The Nashville Teens.
Yes.
I
saw that Chuck Berry tour, and it's really funny. We've done chats recently with Richard Thompson Steve Howe of Yes, and they both individually saw that same tour as well.
Yeah, with the Animals, wasn't it?
Were the Animals on there?
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah, it was House of the Rising Sun. That was where they first started playing House of the Rising Sun.
Yeah, well, I had that. Yeah, I think you're right now. But, there were loads of them. Jet Harris and Tony Meehan, I remember.
Oh, right.
Yeah, fantastic. In fact, I saw Bob Dylan, his first concert was at Sheffield City Hall. That's where he started his tour. He'd been over, I think, doing clubs and stuff. But his first concert tour, which was his solo tour, not the famous... one where he came over with the band, but
Judas, that's right.
I remember him opening up with Tambourine Man, which wasn't even recorded at that point.
Incredible.
And
so you went to plenty. You made sure you saw plenty. That's brilliant.
Yeah, they were always sold out. Those things. It's fantastic. I mean, it wasn't like 50 quid a ticket. No,
certainly.
Was there any particular band that made you want to get up and perform yourself and to form your own group? Well,
I was already dabbling as a kid. I started out playing a sort of kit of drums. It wasn't a made-up kit of drums in the attic. A couple of bits of my dad's old things. And so I was already interested. And we had a little band at school, and we played Shadow songs and Beatles songs.
What were you called? Can you remember?
I think we were called the Atom Wreckers.
Right, okay.
And then we went there. One time we were called Savile Row, which I thought was pretty progressive. But when I went to see the Beatles, that was it. That's what I'm going to do. And I just remember, I'd never seen anybody hitting the drums like Ringo, with the old hi-hat going like this as he's laying it. Oh, it was a different level of... it's fantastic, yeah.
So when you started playing in bands, I'm imagining in Yorkshire, which I grew up in Yorkshire around about the same time, was it the era of kind of soul bands where everybody had to be able to play Knock on Wood and Hold On I'm Coming? And was that
that was the next stage. As I was 15, I think we'd moved on from the beat group thing to the soul band. And one of the little bands I had, we had this guy he was 16, 17, 6'2" Jamaican guy.
Right.
And he'd left to join this soul band. And so this was the time when I was still kind of playing drums, but my friend, the Clive, who was the this singer, he said they needed an organ player, and I couldn't play anything at all. But I sold my drum kit that I'd eventually gotten, and got my mum to sign on the HP to buy a keyboard, an organ. In those days, the Vox Continental was the thing. I couldn't quite stretch to the Vox Continental.
That's the Alan Price instrument.
That's right. Yes. With the black key, it's the reverse. The black keys are the white keys, and the white keys are the black keys.
Right. Okay.
So I purchased this organ, and somebody showed me a couple of chords, and I wheedled my way into this little soul band. We had sax, trumpet, and all the rest of it. I played at the back quietly, figuring it out, bluffing as I still am. And that was that. But basically what we would do the usual, knock on wood, midnight hour, all that. But and then the hot ticket at the time was Geno Washington.
Yeah, of course.
Geno Washington and the Ram Jam Band.
The Ram Jam Band.
And he would play at the Mojo Club in Sheffield, which was run by Pete Stringfellow.
Pete Stringfellow. I went there myself.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And another bit of trivia there is that Chris Stainton.
Yes, of the Grease Band.
And the Grease Band. But Chris, who's, been with Eric Clapton for many, many years, is also a bit of a boffin. And he fitted the sound system in the Mojo with these massive 18-inch speakers all over the place. And
Right.
Is this the kind of nonsense that you want to talk about?
Absolutely. We love it.
But then
no detail is too much.
But then so from the soul band, you then ended up in a group with a very unsoul band name, which is Warm Dust.
Oh God, we're going there, are we? Okay.
Oh yeah.
But it's kind of classic. It's classic progress, isn't it? It's the 60s. It's the Beatles, beat groups, soul bands.
Yeah,
prog bands. Is that right? Is that?
I guess so. Well, I'm trying to think how things happened, but I think the soul band kind of fizzled out. Maybe it went out of fashion. I don't know. I can't remember. But we went back to being a group again, a smaller group, and we teamed up with. We came down to London and auditioned at this little reggae club in off the Caledonian Road. And there were hundreds of bands auditioning to play in Germany.
Oh, right, of course.
Because that was the thing, that was the thing at the time.
Yeah, Hamburg, Cologne, wasn't it? That's right.
Hamburg, Cologne, Frankfurt.
Yeah.
And we drove down, slept in the van overnight, and as I said, there were hundreds of bands auditioning to go and work in Germany. And anyway, we made an effort, we did our 2 numbers through all the shapes and everything. And they called us back and said, well, we got these 2 girl singers and we think you should team up. And then we're going to send you off. And they sent us off to Frankfurt for 2 weeks and Cologne for 2 weeks. So we did that for a while. This was just playing covers, River Deep, Mountain High with these 2 girl singers and all the rest of it. And then we went to the top 10 club in Hamburg for a month. We did a month's residency there.
Wow.
Which is the
Did
top
you have
10.
to do the same kind of sets that the Beatles were doing, which is kind of 4 5-hour sets, whatever it was?
Well, there were 50-minute sets, and you alternated with another band.
Right. Yeah.
10-minute turnaround, and they do. And literally, I think because we played there one in the summer, and I don't think I ever saw
Daylight.
Yeah, was it daylight or was it?
Well, whatever. The outside. Yeah,
but it was fantastic. I mean. It was basic, but it was fantastic. Anyway, this one time we were doing this residency with these other guys. It was a band from Liverpool, and they had a couple of multi-instrumentalists in the band, saxophones, flutes, and they would do, like us, they do all the covers and everything. But then we would go back to this sort of annex where we all stayed, and we would listen to music, and we'd get stoned. That was the thing at the time. And we got on really well with these guys, and we were all listening to, whatever sort of R&B, jazz, progressive rock as it was at the time. And basically we amalgamated with these guys. We got the girls left. Right. And we amalgamated with these 2 multi-instrumentalist guys, and that's how Warm Dust came.
That's Warm Dust.
But please don't Look up any of the records.
No, but am I right in thinking you supported Fleetwood Mac just after Peter Green had left?
Possibly. Possibly.
It's all a blur.
I don't know. I remember, I remember doing a festival, and I think they were probably on that, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
But we were impressed by Free.
Right, well, absolutely.
Yeah.
They were fantastic. I remember this festival we did in Essen, and I think Fleetwood Mac might well have been the top turn on that thing. But Free stole the show for us. They were fantastic.
Yeah. So then sorry, make it sound as if you've gone from kind of trend to trend. Clearly you haven't, but you know, you then emerge with Ace in London, which is kind of attached to what was then called pub rock. Yeah,
well, how did that happen? We had Warm Dust. Please don't look them up. Great guys. I mean, we were so earnest. We really believed it. We were making a contribution to music. You know.
Yeah.
It was pretty wacky stuff. I mean, there'd be 15 and 20-minute things of us just going like, bing, bong, ding, making it, improvising.
It's coming back.
Oh no. Anyway, so we made a bit of a go of it, you know, and what have you. But I think the demise was we had all our gear stolen and that fizzled out. So that fizzled out, and that's when I got my first ever actual job, which was clean. I was a grease monkey at this place, Henley's, that serviced Jaguar cars.
Right.
And I was the guy at the end, once you'd had your car serviced, who valeted it.
Right.
And you find this hard to believe, I'm sure, but I got paid 42.5 pence an hour for doing that. Less tax. Emergency tax, because I hadn't, up to that point, paid it.
Emergency tax, that takes you back, doesn't it?
Does that ring a bell for you? Great.
Emergency tax, definitely. You always had to pay that first, didn't you?
I'm still paying it now, but anyway, the Dusters had fizzled out, and I didn't know where I was going to go, but I'd met my girlfriend at this point, who is my wife to this day.
Right, excellent.
And I thought, well, I better get a job. She had a job, and she was paying the rent. So anyway, I got a job as this valet. And then I got back in touch with two of the guys from the Dusters, Tex Comer, the bass player, and a guy called Steve Witherington, who was the drummer. And they teamed up with these two guitar players, Phil Harris, sadly no longer with us, and Bam King. Mm-hmm. Now, Bam had been in this band, The Action. Who were, you know, great. Phil Collins' favourite band, I believe. He said, but they were kind of a moddy band. Yeah. Anyway, so they teamed up with these two guys, and they said, well, it'd be nice to have keys. And they said, oh, well, we know a guy who plays a bit of keyboards. And they got in touch with me, and that's how we got together as Ace, originally Ace, Flash and the Dynamos. And we started rehearsing and playing and getting gigs on the pub thing. And of course, there were all, as were a number of other groups. So I think everybody had outgrown the prog thing. Well, most of us had gone through the prog thing. It had gone very pretentious and took in itself far too serious. And pub rock was getting back to basics, playing in the pubs for beer money, rock and roll. And that's how that's how Ace got started.
Because how long? I was just looking it up this morning. It was a big hit, wasn't it? I mean, it was a hit here, but it was also a big hit in America, wasn't it?
It's a massive hit everywhere, mate. But America particularly. God knows how that works, because we had never been there.
No.
And still earning, presumably still earning for you.
Still earning for me and a few other people who've signed us up to terrible contracts.
Oh, really?
Back in those days. I'm afraid so.
But it was misunderstood, wasn't it? It's a bit like Every Breath You Take. It's one of the songs everyone thought was wonderful. It was a kind of love song, it's a romantic song. But tell us
What's Every Breath You Take about?
Every Breath You Take is a kind of song about observing an unfaithful lover.
Stalking.
Yeah. Rather than I absolutely adore everything you do.
No, well, how long was about... how long was the reason we got a record deal? Because all the pop rock bands were getting signed to labels. And I think we thought we'd missed the boat because we were a bit rough and ready. But a couple of people came down, had a look and thought no. And then somebody got interested from a label called Anchor Records, a little label. And they came down to see us at the Hope and Anchor, I think, a few other places. And we'd started doing How Long in the set, And I think that pushed them over the edge. They thought, actually, that's not a bad tune, So that's how we got our first record deal.
Right.
And we went to Rockfield Studios for 2 weeks, which was absolute heaven for us. We thought it was just absolutely great. We'd play football all day and get loaded at night and try and play some music. And after about 10 days, we had nothing in the can worth anything. And the producer, John Anthony, sort of said, look, lads, come on, we've got to get it together. And we recorded How Long, which was nothing like I had imagined it. I imagined it as the Four Tops.
Right.
Reach Northern Soul. But of course, we were always quite laid back, shall we say. And it came out in that sort of West Coast smooth sound. Anyway, you asked what it was about. Do you still want to know? Or
Yeah,
is that
go on.
enough about How
Yeah.
Long? Well, so we're playing the pubs and we're having a lot of fun, and we were good pals and everything. And we were friends with another band who were doing a lot better than us. They had the record deal. They'd done some support tours in the States, and things were going well for them. And they were having some problems with their bass player. I think he got ill or something, and they borrowed our bass player, Tex, to do a few gigs. And while that was going on, they were bending his ear, trying to get him to join them, which must have been extremely tempting because they were probably on about 25, 30 quid a week, and we were not on anything, So it must have been very tempting. But anyway, he stuck with us. But that's what it's about. They're the friends with the fancy persuasion.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, I thought everybody knew that by now. But
Well, I know it's always worth refreshing the memory. But it is 50 years ago, as we just said. As we just said.
Yeah.
So, but it is one of those records, presumably, that just keeps on. It's on a radio station somewhere.
Yeah.
Like this moment, isn't it?
Definitely.
Is that the case?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I was pleased with it when I wrote it. I thought this is quite catchy, and I thought it might have a chance, but I didn't think it would still be getting played 50 years later.
Because it's not dated. It's a kind of sound that doesn't date. Is that fair to say?
Possibly. I mean, it was recorded in the old-fashioned way. It's
sure.
5 blokes in the room playing it. Red light comes on, and you want to catch a moment. So I think it has a vibe. It has a vibe. It has a hook. That's about it, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I've written better songs that never see the light of day, But for some reason, it hit a chord, and thank goodness it did.
Yeah. So when you play live nowadays, you presumably have to do all the hits that you've been involved in. Is that fair to say?
Well, there's not that many. But you betcha.
Run through them. Yeah,
you bet. Yeah, I do them. I think fair enough. I like doing them.
Absolutely,
It's no chore.
Yeah.
I mean, my neighbour around the corner here, he has to do the Push Bike song because that was his big hit. But no, I think they're all pretty good tunes, and I love singing them, and I like the response they get.
Right.
But I've been putting out new stuff continuously.
Yeah, no, sure.
Not just with the bands, but, with as a solo artist. I mean,
Well, we noticed 19 albums, isn't it?
Is it really?
Yeah, we counted.
I'm not counting, but I just keep trying to do new stuff. And as I say, I think some of it's better than, it's the best stuff. I started my own little label in 2000. Blimey. That's 20.
That's a quarter of a century ago.
I know. Well, that seems like a blip, But I'd made it solo albums for record companies, and they'd stick one single out, and then if it didn't happen, that was the end of that. You'd wasted your time doing a whole album. But so I started doing stuff and releasing it independently, and I think that stuff is the best stuff I've done.
Right.
I may not have had the hits, but anyway.
Yeah. But you do the Mike and the Mechanics stuff?
I do a couple of those. I think I'm entitled to do them. I do the Living Years.
Right.
I think people want to hear that. It's I do Over My Shoulder, which is a fun thing.
Squeeze.
I don't do many others, to be honest.
Any Squeeze?
Yeah, Tempted.
Yeah,
only
right.
Tempted. That's the only. Well, I sang a couple of songs, but Tempted is such a great song.
It is.
Right.
I mean, I didn't write that. Obviously, that's Chris and Glenn.
Yeah.
That song, and I think it's fantastic. Excuse me. I think I'm so lucky to get to sing it, and it was Elvis Costello's idea for me to sing that. Actually, he was.
Yes, he produced the record, didn't he?
He was producing that record, and they'd already recorded a version of it with Dave Edmunds producing. But when we did the album, we just started messing around with it one day, and Elvis got all excited and said, let's put this down, in this soul-y version. And he said, but you should sing it. Oh, okay. And I was absolutely delighted. I mean, I think if I'd have been Glenn, I would have been gutted.
I was going to say there must be a certain amount of diplomacy required around these
song
things.
you wrote yourself.
No, I mean it was their song, and
I know
one of the best. I mean, they've written some great songs, but one of the best. So I was delighted to get the chance, and Glenn was supportive and everything. I think when it became a bit of a radio hit, especially in the States, it was a bit of a breakthrough for him, and I think it might have been difficult for him. I would have been well pissed off if it happened to me, that somebody else got to sing the song. But no, I do that one. I do that one in a set most.
Right. So this tour in September is with your regular band.
Yes,
but you've done shows with big bands and so forth recently, haven't you?
Yeah, well, that's the big band association came about. How did it come about? Because they're based in Germany. They're what it says on the tin. They're a big band, jazz. They're one of the best in the world, actually. They used to be associated with a radio station over there, established 70 years ago. The actual band in itself, not the same guys.
No, sure.
A bit like the BBC, I suppose.
Yeah.
But they're a proper jazz band, but they do all kinds of projects, and they just rang me out of the blue 10 more years ago and said, do you fancy doing a Christmas album of all the Christmas classics? And I thought, I'll have a go at that, because I'm a bit like that, I will have a go at anything. And I went over, and they're thinking they wanted me to do one or two songs, and they said, no, I want you to do the whole album. So it's the usual chestnuts,
right.
The classic standards. But I really enjoyed it. I'd never done anything like that. I'm not a schooled musician. These guys are like professors of music, and it was good fun. And then we've done, since then, I usually go over at Christmas time and we do Christmas stuff, but they've expanded the repertoire, which started out being, from the Sinatra, Nat King Cole playbook. But I did an album with them recently where I said, well, can we just pull it a bit more my way? And we started doing sort of Ray Charles, Bobby Bland, stuff that I could play as well as sing, because, you know, the other stuff's very sophisticated and to beyond my chops. But
Right.
so that's how the big band thing came. I just like doing different things.
Right. But this tour in September is with your band.
That's with my band.
Yeah, and you do all through the country, and you finish at the Albert Hall. And
Yes.
who comes to see you?
Well, all kinds, actually. They're a nice crowd. They're a very nice crowd. They're very accepting of support artists and things like that. It's mixed. It is mixed, because people know me from different things.
Yes.
You know, and some people are discovering me, you know, all the time, really, because it's like, oh, I didn't know he did that. That's
Right.
It's him who did that. So, whereas that's kind of been the bane of my life, or it was difficult to get the solo thing going. Even at the height of Mike and the Mechanics, when they had their greatest hits album, which sold like 1 million copies back then or something, people didn't know my name. They didn't even know I was a singer. A lot of people thought Mike was the singer, like my newsagent.
Yeah.
When I go in, they still go, "I'm morning, Mike." So that was, and I had to kind of start almost not quite at the bottom, but almost at the bottom with the solo stuff, you know.
Right.
But people, all kinds of people come. We do get an older crowd, but we get young people as well who might have come from the solo stuff. Because at one point, I was on Radio 2 all the time with the solo stuff.
Yeah.
I had a great run, and they suddenly dropped me like a stone. It was like things are changing.
Didn't fit the demographic.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, no, I got the
You get a letter.
not a letter, but from the people who used to
P45.
took our records in there to be plugged to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
if they would go on the playlist, and usually we'd get 2, 3, maybe more on an album on the playlist, but they were being primed. Look, it's all changing. It's Waters, and we want this demographic and that demographic, and suddenly they were not playing anything. But which is a shame. But at least I had a good run.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it. But the streaming thing is going fantastically well.
Is it really?
Which, as an independent, is okay. A lot of guys.
Because you're not going through a major label, so they're not taking their cut.
Exactly.
So you're getting whatever there is.
Exactly. And
So it is interesting because people do complain about this. They will say, can't make any money out of streaming. Well, it depends how much of it you're getting, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, they're guys who are signed to record labels.
Big
and
label.
have the benefit of the labels, whereas I've done the hard graft, which is not easy. It's a lot of work, you know, to do the independent thing. But it does make a difference, and so it's not a bad little stream of income, and it means that you are being heard, and you're still kind of relevant to some people.
Yeah.
But isn't it also, Mark and I were talking about this in the context that we're talking about with Ben Sidran, the American musician. You know, all these people who've laboured away for years making loads of solo albums, none of which have been in the chart or anything like that.
Yeah.
You go to Spotify and they're all still there.
And the catalogue.
That's a really good thing.
That's what it's all about. And that's
people
the
are
great
discovering them all the time, aren't they? People will find one and it'll recommend them to go to other ones. You know?
Exactly. That's
Just
why
keeps
it is great, actually, because, as you say, it is about catalogue. Because once upon a time, unless you had a smash,
it disappeared.
It disappeared. Exactly.
Deleted.
Now people are frantically searching through I've actually got people wanting to put out Warm Dust.
You will do. Just the title itself is it?
It's so 70s. You can just hear John Peel go, and 2 more from Warm Dust.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to.
Sure.
I don't want to disrespect the lads because actually, a couple of them have passed. But you know, we really meant it. You know, we lived it. We were hand to mouth, sleeping on people's floors just to play our music. You know,
Of course.
Absolutely.
but unfortunately, the records we made weren't very good. We had no idea what we were doing in the studio, and but
It was a very earnest time, wasn't it?
indeed,
It was.
indeed.
Blokes
So,
listening for signature changes, you know.
I'm guessing you kind of look back on it now. You're still doing it now, all these years later. Yeah, and you must be immensely grateful, are you?
Absolutely. I mean, I do get people who say, "Oh, you should have done better. You could have done this. You could have done that," and it's true. And I signed dodgy contracts and all the rest of it. But no, I couldn't have dreamt it working out as it has. I have a life in music. I have a little bit of success. I'm earning a living. I've done okay, I think. I've done marvelous.
But also, Dave and I talk about this a lot. It must be, you know, if you have your moment in the sun, huge amount of press attention and celebrity, whatever, at some stage, it can very easily just burn it all up, and things can just kind of fizzle out. And you know, you've just kept the long haul going, haven't you?
And a slow burn, I guess.
Slow burn.
Oh, there's an album title. Nah, that's been done. That must have been done a million times. No, I didn't like and I don't like that kind of attention. I don't want it. I only want people to come to the shows and to listen to the music. But I definitely shy away from. I'm not good with that.
Right.
I mean, I've had a lot of good opportunities actually to have done better. I mean, we had that big hit with How Long. I had couple of solo hits in the States. Don't Shed a Tear. For one reason or another, I didn't want it that badly. I didn't.
Well, I can remember you filling the Albert Hall on I think it was your 50th birthday. So things have been very successful for a long time.
Well, we did the Albert Hall last year, and I had the big band on as the opening act. So I sang with the big band first of all, and then we did our regular set. It was a fantastic show, and we sold that out. So yeah, it's amazing. I don't know how long it will keep going, but we'll see.
Keep your fingers crossed. Paul Carrack, it's been lovely to talk to you. And, you know, as we traditionally always say, good luck with the tour.
Thank you.
Word down your way. Those who are about to tour salute you.